Hey, Karen.
Tim, it's just showing us as being live. I don't see anything else going on currently. I had a community conversation policy map from an hour ago.
Sorry, Henry. We're good. Is what I. Sorry, Karen Weatherly was calling me with an urgent matter. I think we're good. Or maybe.
I don't see anything else going on.
Okay. Whoa! What is happening right now? Okay. All right. So I just got lost in the matrix there for a second. I was looking at the YouTube page, and there was like a 10-second delay. And I started to hear myself talking. That was really weird. Are we ready?
Tim,
Can you hear me?
Tim,
Yes,
this is Natasha.
Hey, Natasha.
I can hear you, Natasha.
Good. Real quick, did you get the letter that Kim sent out for the board to review?
I did.
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure you had that.
And I'll share. I don't know if Lori's joining this call, but I'll share with staff that Karen called me urgently to say she's very concerned about some of the language in there. Not conceptually, the kind of topic and motivation, but just some of the things in there. I think, well, she says she's really concerned. So I don't know how we're going to address that. Obviously, we can't do it right now because the meeting has to start. It's just
Okay.
Did Jill got that as well?
I sent it to everybody that usually attends our meeting. Yeah.
Got it. All right. So I'm going to send a message to everybody real quick in the waiting room. And we'll talk real quick, staff. Actually, let's just start because we are public right now. So we're just going to go. Here we go. Good evening, everyone. Apologies for the slight late start there. We are good to go. Welcome to the October 2021 Charlotte Tree Advisory Commission meeting. Kim, I believe.
Yes.
Your name there?
I'm here. Do you see?
Yep.
Okay.
What can you guys tell me what you see? You see
We
agenda?
see your well, we see your yes, your laptop.
Do you see the agenda?
No,
All right. Thought I'd fixed it. How about now? Is that
there
okay?
we go. Got it.
Okay. Apologies, folks. Okay.
All right.
Kim, staff's ready whenever you are.
All right. So yeah, shall we call the meeting to order? I don't know who we have here. We've got, we've got 13 of us. That's great. So shall we call the meeting to order? or calling the meeting to order. Should we take a roll call now?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Banks. Davis. Gagne is not here today. Hart.
Here.
Holmes.
Here,
Negrin.
Present.
Massa.
Here.
McGowan.
Present.
Thank you. Roberts.
Here.
Welch.
I'm here.
All righty, we have a quorum.
all right, shall we, we'll calling the meeting to order and minutes in attendance. Do we need to review that from last time? Old business, new business?
Yes, and let me ask you, Kim, can you see the minutes on the screen?
Yes, minutes in attendance, right? Okay. Mhm.
Okay. Let's put them on the screen and I'll slowly scroll. If anyone has any questions, I'll stop.
Well,
I
would
can't
not-
see the minutes.
Not the last, I'm sorry, yeah, not at the last meeting.
Oh.
I see minutes in attendance, yeah.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with the share screen function.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate your patience.
Do you want me to read through it, or are you going to read through it, Tim, or just everybody taking a look at it?
I'm just gonna, so the board received these a few days ago. If anyone has any comments or edits suggested, please bring them forward, or you can make a motion to accept. Typically, we don't read through them. But we can, Kim, if you want to.
No, no, I think that's
Okay.
fine. I'm having technical difficulties now. I'm not seeing.
Can anybody else see the minutes?
I
There you
can
go,
see the
Council.
minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
I
Okay.
will make a motion to approve the minutes as,
I will second.
Okay, for some reason I've lost, so I'm gonna click back on even though I'm still here, so. On, I don't see your screen. Don't let me hold you up. Let's see here. I think I'm gonna click out. Everybody's
So a
had,
motion on the table with a second. I think there needs to be a vote.
Yep. All right, if everyone's ready, Banks. Davis. Gagne's not here. Hart.
Aye, yay, whatever you say.
Holmes.
yes, yay.
Negrin.
Here.
Massa.
yay,
Point of order, isn't it a vote yes or no, not here?
Yes, that's correct.
That Negrin.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Before we move on, can we quickly, I see Jay is on the meeting, but I haven't heard him. Just want to check and make sure. Jay, can you hear us? I don't know if,
So I've been sitting here talking to myself this whole time.
I haven't heard you say here or yay. I don't know if Natasha.
Yeah, there should have been some good lip readers, but I said
Okay.
yes. on the
Just wanna
last
make
two.
sure.
I said here on the roll call, so
Okay.
I apologize for that.
Just want to make sure the record.
Yeah, that's okay. Jay, what happens is if your voice doesn't come through, then your picture doesn't pop up. So I won't see you at all to know
Oh.
that you're actually, yeah. All right.
Okay.
Okay, we've got you. Madam Chair?
Yes. And I'm still having trouble. I can see the screen, Tim's screen in tiny, tiny thumbprint. So there we go. All right, perfect. All right. All right, so now on to new business. We had the proposal to Marcus Jones for increasing funding for the tree, for the arborist. And Charlie did the lion's share. He did all of the work, really. Thank you to Sarah Hart also for some input, and we did a little fine tuning, but Charlie, I don't know, and everybody, I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at it before the meeting. It was kind of, I sent it late to Natasha, so that wasn't her doing. So I don't know, can we put that up on the screen, or is that possible?
Could I make a motion?
Yes.
Because we only got it, I only got it about 10 minutes before I came on. Can we table that until next month for discussion? To allow us enough time to digest it and look at it and read it over?
Well, my only concern on that, and we can all, everybody discuss and put your 2 cents worth in, is just that we were hoping that we might be able to have some sort of discussion by the end of November, since the end of the year is drawing close. So we were hoping to invite Mr. Jones to maybe address the CTAC next month. So I don't know if we can is it reasonable for us to go through the letter here during the meeting? Is there anything wrong with that, Tim, or?
I would object. I mean, I don't have time to digest everything in 10 minutes that's in that letter. I mean, there's a lot of information, and some of it I'm not quite sure what it means. So I think we would be better off if we could have the time to make sure that everybody is understanding the entirety of the letter and each portion of it.
Certainly, maybe we can call a second meeting this month, then maybe in a week or two. Would that be reasonable?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
So, but there's a motion on the floor to table it to the next meeting. So that motion would need a second, right?
Do we not take a vote on that, or is it just?
You have to
It
have a
would need
second first.
It would need a second, or it would need a
Okay.
substitute motion.
And I don't know, is the substitute motion saying we try to go through it now?
That
or-
was basically what Steve was saying. If he's making a motion, perhaps to go to schedule a second meeting later this month or whenever.
Right, okay. So perhaps, let's see, later this month would have to be next week. Right. Now, is there a vote on each of those motions, or?
Why don't we go through Mary Jo's to see if there's a second for hers? Let's
Okay,
just do it that way.
okay,
Okay, I will second Mary Jo's motion.
And Mary Jo, can you just state again what your motion is so the board knows exactly what they're voting on?
I move to table the discussion on this letter until the next meeting to allow for better understanding of what's in the letter.
Thank you.
And I'm going to keep that to the next meeting vague so that we can then move to schedule another meeting.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Motion's been seconded, so gotta do a roll
Okay.
call on the vote.
Yep, that's right. So Banks,
Yeah,
Davis, Gagne, not here. Hart,
I'll say yes, and with hopefully that we'll be able to do a meeting before our next scheduled one.
okay. Holmes,
Nay.
Negrin,
Nay.
that was nay.
Yes.
Massa,
yes,
McGowan,
Yes.
Roberts,
Nay.
and Welch.
Nay. And I would offer if maybe, I don't know if there's an opportunity for discussion. I'm not sure where that is, but maybe we can talk about it a little bit more. I think that'd be helpful. I recognize everyone's need to review it for sure. Maybe we spend some time tonight talking about it and then have a follow-up meeting in a week. I don't know. So I don't know where we are in terms of order, in terms of having a discussion. So since I was last to vote, I offered that as kind of rolling into discussion, but y'all tell me kind of what's appropriate.
Okay, well, the last motion failed. That's where we are.
So we could go ahead and at least discuss it today. Charlie, do you want to, or like I said, is there now?
Yeah, is that okay? So I mean, I think I guess I recognize people need to have more time to look at this. I get that. So let's maybe have another a follow-up meeting in a week. I guess I would say that. I think my concern about voting no is I'd like to at least go through this so everybody at least has the background. I mean, that would be my thought if people thought that was helpful. And then we can have a call that hopefully would be shorter. People have the background, some of which we've talked about before, at least have a little background. Everyone needs to have a chance to review it. I completely get that. And then maybe have a follow-up call whenever it works for everyone. I'll certainly try to make myself available. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's good. Can we put the letter up on the screen or no? Is there a way to do that so that everybody can kind of follow through? Or of course, everybody's got a, or does everybody have
Yes.
a copy? Yeah.
Perfect. You want me to just walk? You want me to go through it a little bit, Kim?
Yes, that would be great. Since you're
Certainly not going to read it, but
You're
I
the
think-
one that did all the hard labor.
I think, well, no, everybody pitched in for sure. And I think the first thing I'd point in, and I'm sorry, I'm not sure who had proposed not reading it. I think that's legitimate request. But the first thing in here is, I think we want to be unanimous. I think it's more powerful if we are all unanimous in this. And so let's make sure we get this done right. So yes, please make sure you have time. Everyone has time to read it. I'm not going to read it, but I'll kind of go through in order. This is really directed at funding. It's obviously not at the Arborist Department at all. They're doing all they can and working very hard. They just, they don't have enough resources. And you scroll down, Tim, maybe to the third paragraph. As I understand the way the budget works, there are a number of expenses with the Arborist Department, salaries, staffing, all those things are separate from what City Council really approves in terms of budget that addresses maintenance and planting in it. And that's those two numbers. And that's why those two numbers are there, not other budget items. And those two have been stagnant for years. And as I understand the way the budget works, it's a budget for the next year, but they do ask for estimates for needs in years 2, 3, 4, and 5, or something to that effect. And if you look at the last budget, these two amounts have been stagnant historically, and they're requested to be the same in future years. And it's not because the Arborist Department doesn't need more. It's just they've been told to keep those numbers stagnant. So there's two issues. I think, we can prioritize them a little bit. Planting probably has more to do with the canopy, but I think maintenance and the shortfall in funding there is probably the more urgent need. And so I put them in that order. They're in that list. I think they're listed that way in the budget, but I list them that way primarily out of prioritization. But the maintenance one is the real concern to me. And I put in there, you'll see this, the backlog of trimming trees, dead limbs is long. And I just, from a negligence, from a liability standpoint, I think that I personally worry, and I think the city should worry about its pattern of kind of not keeping maintenance up to date. I mean, God forbid something tragic happen. I am not a fan of litigators, but it would not take a litigator very long to build a pretty strong case against the city. So we've got in there, and if you go a little bit lower, Tim, there's some comp information that was in one of these links that was sent around that shows, compared to other southern cities, we are dead last in terms of how much we allocate for trees. And I won't go through all the numbers. I think it's $8 a tree versus
Well,
$9.
but we're not dead last. We're actually it says in the bottom quintile, which is not the same thing as being last. And this is one of my problems with the letter, is it's not very specific or exact.
Okay, glad to make any kind of changes you think. I think we're in the bottom decile. So I just assume bottom decile is last, but we can perhaps, we don't have the actual.
And I mean, the
have the
comps,
actual
I would need to see data on the actual comps. I mean, comparing Charlotte to Chicago is not okay. I mean,
So
you
we'll get to
need to
that.
compare it on a.
This is not Chicago. We'll get to that. This is not Chicago. This is and I'm not sure if anyone has that data. I think we've talked about that. And I think what we have is which is just a third-party study that compared, this is southern cities with comparable tree canopies that provide much more maintenance per capita per tree than we do. And so I don't know that we have rankings, but I'm open to improvements, open to any kind of changes. I think you asked a legitimate question, but I think we're pretty low. I think that's the takeaway. If the letter needs to be changed, we certainly can do that. So I think that's one on the maintenance, and I'll get to Chicago. And then Tim, if you scroll down a little bit further on the, we have limited data, but we've got some good data on DC and Chicago in particular. DC, the numbers, it's 20% of our size, and yet they plant 8 times the number of trees. Chicago just announced a program where they're going to plant 15,000 a year. And I think their land mass is the same as ours. Obviously, city of Charlotte, the city of Chicago is much bigger population wise, but I think from a governance standpoint, what the city of Charlotte is talking about is the land mass within the city of Charlotte. And I think that's apples to apples with Chicago. And there are other cities that provide much lower funding for future tree planting as well. And so that's what those numbers are. If you've got better information, great, glad to use anything else, but that's the information that we've been able to get. And then I think at the very end,
I just think as a comparison, some of that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Okay, well, please take the time to look at it. I know you just had it. I get that.
Right.
And Tim, Laurie, anybody who's got better data, we're open to it. I mean, we're using the data that's kind of given to us.
Charlie, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
Hi. So these numbers, do you know if these are right-of-way tree planting? Are these private property? Are these on parks? I'm not familiar with the data that you're using, so I apologize for.
No, that's okay, Laurie. I think the DC one came from that study, and I think it says it's public property. And I don't remember, I looked at the Chicago stuff a month ago.
Okay.
I think it was the same in Chicago, but I'd have to go back and look at it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'd be curious to make sure that the data are comparable, because the numbers that we at the arborist office plant, that's just in the right of way, and there's other groups that also plant in the right of way, and so that number would be lower because it's not including other tree plantings.
Yeah,
okay, I just want to make sure that
I understand,
that
and I don't have the
clarification's
tree,
there.
Charlotte. And another question that I didn't get an answer to was the size of the trees in terms of, because I know what Charlotte's planting are these larger B&B trees. I think we asked about DC, we just don't know, and I don't know about Chicago either. So certainly a fair question. So again, this is all open for better information if anybody has it. And then just again, to kind of skim it, the last thing is, I think this is to get people's attention to say here, we think these are some serious deficiencies. Would love to try to figure out a way to do better. Would love to meet with you. Love to talk. Love for you to come address the board. Whatever makes sense. However we can work together to come up with some kind of solution that provides, more funding for both maintenance and planting. So that's the background, Mary Jo and others. And again, any information that others have, it certainly would be welcome. And Kim, I don't know if I left anything out that you want to talk about.
Can I ask you,
Go ahead.
yeah, I have a quick question. On the fourth sentence, it says the outside commission, who is that?
The outside commission members are those of us on the call that are not with the city. The outside CTAC committee.
Okay, so it's the CTAC then, not the outside commission. Is that what you mean?
Yes, so it's not the not capitalized C, like whatever that might be. It's these council members.
Okay, and when did we unanimously agree?
Well, that's what we're doing, which is why I said it's obviously important for all of us to be unanimous, or we can't say that.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that we also wanted to, throw in there too is regarding funding, where the funding is going to come from was just also, the payment in lieu to bring that up to whatever the current tax year is, whether be it this year, next year, whatever, commensurate with the current real estate tax percentage, so that, like I said, that would be yet another source of funding. And we also want to emphasize that preservation as much as the maintenance. So that was only,
So would it be accurate to think that the objection is potentially based in the fear that there may be some information that is maybe inaccurate or skewed in any one way? I mean, would it be acceptable to the group to redline this in the generalities that can be communicated with an open-ended invitation to be addressing CTAC? I think maybe we're trying to be too specific. Is that, Mary Jo, does that sound like the biggest objections?
Maybe. I mean, I haven't completely read through the whole thing. So I certainly object to the way the statistics are presented. I don't think that you can say some of this stuff. It's just not, it's not correct. So I would want to make it as correct as possible. And if making it more general can do that, that might be okay. I'm happy to take a stab at looking at that data and correcting it some. But there's also some grammatical errors and stuff like that I would want to be fixed.
Well, I can always use help with that. So, so please do. And please look at the data. I mean, it's the same data you have it too. So I do think the more specific we are, it strengthens the message. But obviously we want to be factually correct. So if you look at the data and you think something's misstated, and then by all means, please let us know.
I would agree. I mean, I do think as specific as we can be, but you're right. Some of these things there just isn't data on, but if you have it, then certainly let's put it in there and be specific versus the generalities, so that can't be
I would also discourage trying to put the in lieu of and all that into this correspondence. I really think I love the idea of a general request for the raising of funds, right? Based on the data that it hasn't been raised in X amount of time. I mean, maybe that's it, Charlie. Maybe that's the statistic that we can absolutely put our finger on is how much our budget's increased over the last X years, right? That's pretty finite data.
It is. I would agree with that. And we can certainly find out how much, for example, the total city budget's grown over the past X number of years, however long ago these two amounts kind of got locked in at these amounts. I think that's part of your point, right?
Yeah, exactly. If we can show the stagnation of that budget, then we might save the presentation of the statistics for the meeting that we hope to engage in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would still include the statistics, assuming we all are comfortable that they're accurate. I mean, again, we got these from independent studies, but I think adding my 2 cents, I'm just going to add my 2 cents. Everybody's got an opinion here. My 2 cents is adding something about what percentage the city budget has grown while these have stayed flat. I think is another good point to add. Again, more specifics, which is good. I probably need Laurie or Tim's help in what that is, because I don't actually know what that amount is.
Well, and also too, just for the efficiency of time, since we do, ideally, I don't know if I can make the motion or not, that we meet next week, because we do want to get this going. And is that whoever has conflicting or additional specific statistics, please share it with Charlie and myself, so that we can go ahead and put it in there, and we're not having to kind of track this all down again. Does that sound reasonable? I mean, like say, if we know that this is conflicting information.
I think that sounds very reasonable. Should we have a deadline in terms of when we provide you and Charlie with our commentaries, so that our meeting, let's say next week, whenever we decide to have it,
Right. Yes, I would
we'll have as much information as we have to share.
I would propose perhaps next Tuesday, that we could have a deadline for the data, for any new data, and then perhaps, depending again on what the board members vote on, and then perhaps we can meet on Wednesday or Thursday, again, if everybody's schedule will allow. Again, and it should be a pretty efficient meeting if we've got all our data, we're just plugging in here and there.
Charlie, I wanted to add one more thing, possibly while we've got Tim and Lori on the line, in terms of like to build on Scott's point on the budget and kind of where it's been or stagnant for the last so many years, to see if they have some input on some internal discussions that they've had around, what the additional funds would be used for, if they've had programs that, for instance, have been shelved or overlooked or kind of sitting idle, sort of waiting for additional funding or the opportunity for funding. I think that would be helpful for the letter as well, to show that there's kind of some shovel-ready projects without a substantial amount of overhead or additional sort of research that would need to be done to put the money to work, to basically extend the tree's life and all the other sort of points that you've made through the document about what the benefits of maintenance would be to someone who doesn't know anything about trees, presumably. So that would be my 2 cents as well.
Yeah, I certainly would be glad. That's a good idea. I'd be glad to add something there. And I would need Tim and Lori's help for sure, but glad to.
Yeah.
Any other comments from any of the other members?
No, by the way, I think this letter, for the most part, is exciting because it's the most momentum we've seen out of this group for a while, and I think it's exciting to engage, and I don't think there's much in it that I would disagree with. I would say that sometimes I don't know the process after this letter ends up in their hands, right? So I don't know if they have 2 seconds or 2 minutes to pay attention to this. So sometimes I think maybe, just leaving the details to the next thing might get it through our board faster. I think we could spend a lot of time debating the accuracy of statistics. I think we could spend several meetings doing that. So the sooner this thing gets out, I think the better. So whatever the board decides on how to take it to the next level, whether it's detailed or vague, I'd love to see this in the hands of the city very soon.
I would agree, and I thank you for that comment, because I do think time is of the essence, and you're right. I mean, I think we can really get bogged down. Not, we want it, but Charlie did a lot of work and a lot of legwork to get the statistics because some of them just don't exist. But I do think it's really critical that we get this before them. And you're right. I don't know. I don't know if they'll even see the light of day. But I think, we, as a board, we need to speak up, and this is the time to be heard. So, and some really excellent points. So anyway, I would agree. And I don't know, again, whether it's my position or not to make the motion. I mean, do we, as a board, do we even move to potentially approve this current letter, or is there, or is it one of those things, and that's just an idea, and move forward and send it in, and like you say, get down into the nitty-gritty details as if we get some response, and particularly if Mr. Jones would be agreeable to meeting with us in the next meeting.
Yeah, I don't think I would ask, my 2 cents, Kim, I don't think I'd ask for any approvals of this, because I just think people need to take time, and there's a lot in here.
That's fine.
Again, we did all we could with what information we had, but I think everybody needs to have that. But I think it's helpful for us to discuss it. That will make our time next week, if that's when it is, more efficient. And what I would say is, I think someone talked about deadlines, get comments to us by, I would say Monday. If you have any comments, let us know. And I'm not sure how we go about doing that. I don't know if we have to email those to Natasha and she distributes them. I don't really know those. We'll defer to the city here in a second. But maybe get those comments and then have a meeting next Wednesday or Thursday. And then at least people have had this discussion, prior to next Wednesday or Thursday. And I just thought that works.
Could you put this in like a Google Doc so that we can put our comments in this on the side, or a Word document?
I can't. I'm sure somebody can. Maybe if I get it to Natasha, she can send it in a Word document that y'all can put red line comments or something like that.
Yeah, I can help you with that.
We'll figure something out. Okay, thank you. Sorry. Yep. And yeah, it's Pages, which I use, which is even worse. But I'm technically.
Yeah, it is, because I had to fit with that.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay, so I'll work with you, but if you can, you've got this. Well, we'll figure that out later. But if you can get a Word version to folks that they can then mark up, make comments.
Absolutely, we can make it happen.
Okay.
And I was just going to say, back to a couple of people's points, if the purpose of the letter, if we try to maintain what the purpose is, and if it is to try to obtain a meeting, then, the focus should be on obtaining that meeting maybe. But the statistics won't be lost, because maybe within that meeting, those statistics can be presented to Mr. Jones, so I don't think it's, if it's decided stats aren't going to be in this letter, they're not lost. They can also be presented if we do get that in person or virtual meeting.
I agree. I think that if we get that meeting, which is the primary goal of what we're trying what I believe we're trying to do. We could create a PowerPoint that we could go through with city manager that includes all of the relevant and verified facts.
So, by the way, not to slow this process, but if we're asking for a meeting, we should probably build a meeting agenda for that meeting, if in fact it's accepted. And this might be the meeting where we discuss the steps in place. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be, we'll have more to talk about, right? So, are we looking, or are we asking for a meeting in the next CTAC meeting?
We were asking it to meet sometime in November, by the end of November. So yes, that would be, well, could be the next CTAC meeting. And I'm assuming we can, perhaps if that should occur, that we can change the meeting date. Maybe it doesn't have to be the third Tuesday. I don't know what our flexibility is on that, but yes, that the idea is to meet in November, next meeting time, correct?
Yeah, I think if we're fortunate enough to get that, which I'm hopeful we are, right? If we can move this thing forward, I really think we have to have a unified approach, because that's our one shot, right? That's our one shot to be heard.
Right.
And as much as I do want to get the momentum moving, I sure don't want to be unprepared for that exchange if it becomes available.
Right. No, that's a good point. And all the more reason then for our Monday or Tuesday deadline, if anybody has any, corrections or new data, et cetera, the more I think that we can include in the letter, and then that's kind of our reference and our meeting agenda. I mean, if you will, does that kind of follow what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, yes. Basically, I think this is, again, I'm not trying to slow anything, and I also want to clarify with staff whether we have the latitude to have impromptu meetings and whether their availability allows for that. But I really want to drive this home, but I do want to do it, kind of to Mary Jo's point, in a unified approach. So the letter is step one. The meeting, let's say, is step two. Maybe that's our goal line, but without a really specific direct approach and a unified communication channel, I don't know how successful that meeting will be. So I think we do have to spend some time as a group.
Yes, no, I agree.
Is there a
Natasha,
reason?
can you weigh, sorry, I was just going to say, Natasha, can you weigh in terms of our ability to meet outside of the regular monthly CTAP scheduled meeting?
So I'm actually going to kind of give a little side eye to Tim as well. I think that's something that you have to agree upon, of course, and then you may have to vote on that. But I'm going to kind of give a wink to Tim and see if he's had that happen in the past.
It happens very rarely, as you might all have guessed or known, but yes, it has happened in the past. Of course, it makes sense to take as much stock of availability as ahead of time as you can. We certainly need some level of staff from both the tree perspective and the attorney's office perspective present there to support administratively, but also the board in general. So yes, I would believe, and I'll defer to Jill if needed, that that's something that would have to be voted on.
Is there a reason why the goal is November?
Yes, because there's a lot being decided as far as UDO and the tree ordinances, et cetera, so that this, we can have our opinions known.
Can I ask another question similar to that? Who decides or recommends the proposed budget in a given year, and when is their deadline to make their proposal final? Does anyone sort of have that? I assume it's Marcus Jones based on our letter, but
Very, very generally speaking, Nate, yeah, the city manager will develop a budget and present it to council, recommend it to council. But there's a lot of work that goes in before that actual official action occurs. So there's, groups within every department are getting numbers together, proposals that funnels up to the top of the department. They prioritize certain things, make, the short list that goes up to the executive leadership team for the city. And all that gets put into, not all of that, but certain things are selected or prioritized. That goes into the proposed recommended budget from the city manager to city council, typically in the early spring.
Early spring, right? Because July 1 is the beginning of the fiscal year.
Typically, yes. Typically, they vote to approve in June. It's rare that it ever goes beyond the fiscal year for approval. But there are numerous meetings, straw votes, things like that that go on through the spring. Yeah. Jill, sorry, we can't hear you. Jill's having technical difficulties. Let me try to unmute you. Mute. How about now? No, sorry, Jill.
Jill, if you go down to the little microphone, there's a little up caret beside it, and you might have to select a different microphone. Usually it's
Jill.
same as system.
Nothing yet. We're going to wait a minute because Jill's the attorney for the board, so she may have something really important to say. I will say, while we're filling some time here, I'm not well versed with Marcus's calendar, but I do know it is not unusual for 6 weeks to be the lead time before any open spots on there. So
Yeah, and I think that's okay. I think that's the reason also, though, for pushing for the urgency is that's our ultimate goal. But if it's 2 weeks beyond that, at least we're still in December. And also too, thinking positive that there is discussion on this. It may take more than one meeting or other things evolve, out of this. So I think that's why the urgency to get his eyes on it as soon as we can.
yeah, I think it's just good to know that he's obviously really busy and it's tough
Sure.
to get time. Jill did post something in the chat per rules of procedure. Chair has the ability to call a special meeting with 48 hours notice.
Okay. So I guess the first thing is, as far as and as far as requiring, or we're not requiring, but suggesting a deadline of Monday to get us any statistics and then call a meeting for next Wednesday. I mean, we can get a vote just to see what works for everybody, so we have a quorum. Does that work, Natasha, or? Or just announce a time and see if everybody, I'm not sure how to come at it.
I think you just need to have a discussion back and forth right now about what works best for everyone.
All right.
And then you can kind of go from there.
All right. Well, can we just, everybody have a minute to think what would be the best day for you next week for a hopefully very efficient meeting. After we get the information out on Monday, if there are any new statistics and fine tuning on the letter, and that you have that, let's say by Tuesday. Does anybody have any objections to the following Thursday? I'll just throw a day out there.
Works for me.
Myself as well.
do we have can we vote by proxy after that review?
I mean, it's,
Jill's shaking her head no, so I'm gonna go with an official no from the attorney's office.
I, for one, would prefer a Wednesday.
Sorry, Jill.
okay. We've got a vote for a Wednesday. Anybody else have a preferred day? Wednesday or Thursday?
I'll be traveling, so I'm gonna be iffy probably on Wednesday or Thursday, but I will try to make sure I'm available if I can.
Okay. Anybody else?
Both those work for me.
Okay. And is Tuesday too soon?
Tuesday does not work for me. At least 5 to 7, I have a board meeting, another board meeting, 5 to 7 on Tuesday.
Wednesday would be good for me, Kim.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe Wednesday. Anybody else have any objections to Wednesday? Sounds like we're looking good there. So we'll send out an announcement for sure, but let's plan on Wednesday. I guess same time, same place, but does that work for you, Tim, or for whomever needs to be present from the city?
Jill's giving a thumbs up. I think she's good. I'm good for Wednesday. Lori confirmed with me that she's good via text. Lori's, make sure I got that right.
Yes, you are correct.
Okay. So I think we have enough staff availability for Wednesday. I'll check with Karen Weatherly too. She's staff attorney. She couldn't make it today.
Okay, so Monday deadline for refinements and new data. Wednesday meeting at 5, and we'll send out a reminder to.
And we had enough members where if I'm not there, I'm not gonna like ruin it, right? Like quorum wise, we'd be okay.
Right. It seems based on today, yes, but I don't.
Everybody but me said I'm just iffy. Okay.
And then who's on point to synthesize the changes that are sent over on Monday, by Monday?
Well,
Charlie, are you going to work on that? Or there's some other
Yeah.
people that also voiced on the call some ability for wordsmithing and some more academic backgrounds, I think.
I'm
I just-
I'm happy to help.
I'm open to whatever. Yeah. I'm always glad to have help writing letters.
Yeah, me too.
all right, well, very good. Any other comments on this? Otherwise,
Kim, that's assuming 5 p.m. same time.
correct, yeah, correct.
Okay.
All right, shall
I
we?
think Natasha will send out a meeting invite for next Wednesday at 5 p.m. to all CTAC board members and ex officio.
I will do that.
Big thanks to the staff for being willing to take that time out
Sure.
for an additional
Yes.
meeting.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Okay.
agreed.
Of course,
We'll
I
be-
will add that the staff has perspective in this too, so I think that gives us time to, along with the board, to digest this and follow up with any comments, suggestions. I did have a point of clarification I wanted to ask to Kim and Charlie and the board about. Let me find the right paragraph here. Mentioned payment in lieu. I just wanted to ask clarification on. Are you seeking that the payment in lieu?
Well, this is the percentage based on whatever, 2000 or even earlier tax, percentage of the tax, real estate tax value of the particular property. And that just needed to be just brought up to date for whatever tax year we're talking about, whether it's 2021 or 2030 or 2040 or whenever. That was what I was referring to. And maybe I'm not referring.
Okay. So just some clarification.
Mhm.
That TCAP recommended that the final report from the stakeholder group.
Mhm.
It's a policy objective adopted in City Council's comprehensive plan to do that, and it's within the proposed UDO to do that, to update it to based on the 2019 appraised land values from the county revaluation. So that is happening. It's proposed in the current UDO to do that, and that number would increase from $80,100 to $192,627.
The cap is
So
what?
it's-
percentage? Again, I'm sorry.
It's increasing from $80,100, which is the current cap value, to $192,626.
But you said based on 2019. I mean, and is that going to be frozen again at 2019? Or like I said,
No,
2030, are they?
The UDO is now it's the UDO, the draft, it's a draft UDO. So when I say the UDO, it's built into that statement means it's a proposed document. So the draft UDO proposes, actually has very explicit language that states that anytime that there's a revaluation, the city shall update that number. So we're required now by ordinance to do that. And we've built in a plan into our finance system to update that as needed every year if we have to, which we won't be able to. It'll be based on the revaluations, which have to happen minimum once every 8 years. So it'll be happening regularly.
Okay, so we can leave that out. I mean, we don't need to put any other fluff in there that's not needed, certainly. And also though, how was the cap decided on though? That's what I was trying to.
Oh, that's a much more complicated question. That goes back to the previous stakeholder group for the last major revision to the tree ordinance from 2005 to 2011. The stakeholder group met and they created a payment in lieu formula that has 3 variables. It's a developing site's property acreage multiplied by the second variable, which is the developing site's appraised tax value just for land minus any improvements. The third variable, you multiply it by the third variable, which is the standard multiplier of 15% of the site. So that's what the formula is. It would take a very lengthy meeting to explain how that became the law of the land for payment in lieu, but that's what it's based on. There's no proposed change to the formula. The proposed change is to the cap. Now, if a property, as I mentioned, one of those variables is a property's appraised land tax value. If a property's land tax value is higher than that cap value, they can revert to the cap. For example, a property in the south end would probably be worth over $1 million per acre. They get to revert down to that capped value if they choose to utilize payment in lieu.
Yeah, and I was wondering why, or for a very large acreage, why that would seem still pretty minimal in the whole scheme of things. That's why I was wondering why the cap. But again, that's a whole different conversation. So if that takes off the main focus, then we don't don't need to. I just figure if we have his attention, we want to do everything pro tree and anything financial as much as we can in this. But if that's like I say, taking us off topic, then
I would suggest considering removing it. I certainly
Yeah.
wouldn't want to
right. Yeah,
tell you to do that. I would never, do
Right.
that. But I think I wanted to provide an update that that's happening. The only thing we need is council to say yes. Actually, I'll be bringing that. It's an updated guideline that I have to bring to this board soon. So in the next, well, depending on what your agenda is for November, the next couple months, there'll be some guidelines to present to you. That'd be one of them with the updated cap level.
All right.
So I wanted to provide that update.
But yeah,
But also, sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, is it, I mean, I agree that we should be removing that from the letter. But I mean, that's looking for an increase in private money. And what we're really looking for is an increase in public money with our letter. Is that an accurate exchange? I mean, the in lieu money is really coming from developers, right? It's really coming from the private sector, specifically based on development,
yeah.
right?
That's correct, Scott, except in scenarios where the city or the county or CMS is building something. Occasionally they pay into that, but Yes, for all intents and purposes, you're correct. It's private developer funded. Yep.
And our letter is really just saying, hey, let's increase the amount of tax money that is going to programs that really matter, or a group of programs that really that matter to us in this instance. Is that so we're really looking for the city manager to use tax money in a way that can benefit the trees. Is that's the nature of the letter? Is that right?
I don't know that, I mean, I guess in my mind now, Charlie, if you had a different intention, I don't, to me, it's like wherever the money comes from, whatever funnels into the city, it doesn't matter if it comes from taxes or otherwise. That's why I thought this was a good point as far as twofold of it makes more sense to bring it up to date, and also it's another source of income for the city, whether it's taxes or otherwise.
I would caution against that, Kim.
Okay.
I do want to be clear, like that is something that's explicitly called out in the comprehensive plan, is that payment in lieu money is only to go towards acquisition and protection of land for tree canopy conservation. I would, that's council adopted. I would think long and hard before putting that forward. I also, from the staff perspective, would not support that either.
Okay. But yeah, so there's definitely we'll definitely take this out.
Yep.
I think it just, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
we covered
you're
it
right.
pretty well.
You're right, Tim. We
Yeah.
should take it out.
Yeah, we'll take it out. No problem.
And it's in the UDO. It's being discussed there. Let's keep this to just what we're trying to talk about in terms of.
I think it's happening, Kim. I'm fairly certain that it's going to happen, that it's going to get updated, and there's some time between today and the adopted UDO, but it's moving forward right now.
Excellent. Okay, very good. All right. Well, do we have any other items? Otherwise, like I said, we've pretty well established our deadlines and our meeting times. Anything else on the agenda?
Just a quick question, and it based on Mary Jo's earlier comment. Is there a way that we can, is there verbiage that the city attorney's office would rather us use for the group excluding, for this board excluding staff? Is there a term or something we should use for that?
I mean, we're the CTAC board. The city staff isn't part of the CTAC board. Is that true?
It says in their commission, and we are a CTAC, it's a council.
Or council?
I mean, you can just put CTAC.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
CTAC,
commission-
because the city employees aren't on the commission.
We're not appointed members now. I would generally, to answer Scott's question, I think it makes sense for the board to consult Jill if there's any type of language. That Jill's the board attorney, she's not the staff attorney, so I think that would be a good idea.
So we're just saying we're going to remove the outside board members and just say CTAC, then there's no confusion. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I mean, I'll check with Jill. I think is what.
Right.
That sounds right, but I'll verify with Jill. Certainly, it shouldn't be capital C commission. So we need to change it, and we'll find out if that's the best change.
Yeah.
But I'll ask Jill.
All right. I have no other new business. I don't know if anybody else does.
The only other thing on the agenda, if we're moving off of the tree preservation, tree maintenance funding, is Charlotte UDO. Update. Hopefully the board can see that. No, I can, or others can provide a more detailed update moving forward at another meeting. I did want to clarify and give an update to the board that the first draft version of the Charlotte Unified Development Ordinance has been put out for public comment and review. So it's out there, I believe, until January 14th is the current date for public comments. There's numerous public meetings, both in person and virtual, on the schedule right now. To learn more about that, if anybody's interested, there'll be other engagement activities. You can go to this website, charlotteudo.org, and we'll forward you links in a follow-up email. You can click on the document. It is 12 pages, 600 pages plus. So it's a big PDF. We can also forward you a link that goes directly to the tree article. The tree ordinance will be called the tree protection article in the future.
Tim, what's the article number?
It's 29, Article 29 for trees, tree protection. Yeah. It's similar to the current tree ordinance, but it is significantly reformatted, and there is numerous proposed changes, both flexibility, but also increased preservation and planting requirements, I'll say, to summarize it very generally. In some areas, tree save is proposed to go up percentage-wise. We talked about the payment in lieu cap proposed to go up. One of the biggest proposed changes would be to open the door to residential infill development and to begin regulating that. That's currently something from a tree perspective the city does not do at all. This would be single lot, tear down, rebuild type of development. There's proposed tree planting requirements there. Additionally, another really big proposed area is heritage trees, which would be a status given to any native tree native to North Carolina, 30 inches in diameter or greater. They would be universally protected at all times, regardless of development status, meaning if there was a vacant site that was not being developed and there was a heritage tree on the property that was protected, also on any developing site, whether it's a 70-acre subdivision or a 1/10 of an acre urban site, they would be authorized for removal in rare cases of reasonable hardships. That's another big step, is having a universal kind of blanket heritage tree preservation requirement.
Hey, Tim, I had a quick question. I'm sorry, I won't be so chatty, I promise. But with that heritage tree, if it's protected on a smaller parcel where building becomes not possible, does the land then lose value and then get appraised based on the lack of opportunity for construction?
It's a really good question, Scott. I think therein lies we're trying to find the right balance. And so I can't speak to the appraisal impact, but we will have defined criteria that if a heritage tree, it'll have a critical root zone. There'll be an area around that tree that'll be part of the protected area that you can't disturb. And if that zone and that tree are in a location where the building footprint has to go, if there's no other reasonable alternative development scenarios, then the tree can be removed. So we're trying to find that right balance of not rendering any site undevelopable, but also in those cases, there would be some type of mitigation requirement. There'd be a mitigation fee required. Also, tree planting is allowed, and the tree planting may reduce the mitigation fee. So the goal is to not create any property, render it undevelopable, but also not just green light tree removal left and right. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I was just, curious if there's somebody that's been holding a parcel and, it's $1 million acre in South End or something, and it's got 3 heritage trees on it. Do they lose their investment once we implement that?
No, it may impact what can be built out there. And I do want to make a point of clarity that this heritage tree status only applies to, it does not apply to street trees, to city trees. Those are already protected very strongly. Heritage tree would apply to any tree on private property or on public property that's not public right of way. So on school properties, parkland, greenway areas, areas in between homes that are in back alleys that kind of have that gray area of legal status. You know, is it a public right of way? Is it a private alley? That type of thing. Anyway, the UDO is out there, and this will be a big part of my life for the next 6 months. And if the board, you know, Kim, I'm happy to present in more detail on the tree article or anything else. I can grab some folks from the project team right here that I'm scrolling over to help present as well. But anyway, just wanted to make that point.
Good.
Yeah, that's great. I hope the Heritage Tree Program stays through the final draft of the UDO.
Yes.
I do too, and there's clear language on what any mitigation fees that are obtained through that process, how they would be applied as well. So we're trying to think holistically. That's all that's on the agenda.
Right.
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
We take a roll call.
Yep.
Thanks.
Here.
Hart,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
Negrin,
Yes.
Massa. Oh, he's gone. Yes. McGowan,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
and Welch.
Yes.
It's adjourned.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks,
Tasha.
everyone.
Agreed. Thank you all for your comments. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks. Have a good evening.
Bye, Tim.
Bye, Natasha.
Have a good evening, Tim.
You too, Henry. See ya.